Vancouver home sales volumes up 25% from a year ago in September, but they were down 7% from August into September, so month to month. Results then a bit of a mixed bag. Condo sales picking up, detached homes showing weakness. Help us make sense of all these numbers. We're joined from Vancouver by Steve Saretsky, founder of VancityCondoGuide.com. Good to see you again, Steve.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on today.
So definitely when we look at the Vancouver market, we've seen that divergence. Single-family homes used to be the hot property back in the day, and now it's the condo space. How the condo space hold up in September? Because September is generally a month that agents hope that back-to-school buyer returns.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very busy September month for the condo market. I think that there's still a lot of buyers, particularly the first-time buyers, trying to enter the market. We're seeing a lot of the activity, particularly in multiple offers at that one-bedroom segment. Obviously, like local investors, sort of leveraging existing equity to take on another property. So it's extremely competitive, again, especially at the entry-level point.
That's why I wanted to ask you about the condo segment, because as I see the condo segment gain strength, seemingly at the expense of single-family homes, it makes me wonder, is it a pure matter of affordability? You can't buy a home for $1.5 million, that's not in your budget. You buy a condo. Are you seeing any sense that speculative investment behavior is starting to move into the condo segment as well, thinking that's the hot new play?
Yeah, I think they were definitely having a lot of that. I think if you just, sit at an open house and have a conversation with people coming in, you can sort of ask them, hey, what are you looking for? Is this for you to live in, or is this an investment? And I think that, more and more people seem to be saying that, it's an investment. Seeing a lot more of my clients as well looking to tap into existing equity. Obviously, there's been a significant windfall over the last couple of years of equity, so people are basically drawing some of that down, leveraging it up, and rolling it into the condo market right now. So I think it's tough for a first-time buyer. I think that they're competing with not only speculators, but you have a lot of people that are actually looking to downsize right now. Obviously, a boomer generation, and so yeah, things are definitely crazy at the condo market right now.
Now, at the provincial level, obviously you have a new government at the helm, and during the election, housing was a hot-button issue. We had a lot of promises about tackling the big issues, money laundering, flipping, all this kind of stuff, and investment from shell companies. What's the tone and the tenor now out of the government? Are people who are looking for action on housing feeling like they're actually getting something from this government?
I think there's been maybe a little bit of disappointment from the people that had voted in the NDP government in terms of action on the housing file. I think that what they are looking at is getting into some of the speculative side. That's what the government's come out and done. Obviously, they've sort of tapped into a money laundering thing that's been happening on here. They're looking into that. But I think in the actual, targeting demand, I think one of the policies that they're running with pre-election was a 2% speculation tax on anyone that doesn't pay income tax. I haven't heard anything on that file, and so for me, I don't. It sounds like they're not going to actually go ahead and implement that. I mean, that obviously remains to be seen.
Now, I know you specialize in the condo space, but obviously single-family homes aren't showing the same kind of activity in the condo space. Now, when we look at the September numbers, yes, they'll say year over year we saw volumes overall increase, but of course we have to remember what September 2016 looked like. And that was the second full month, rather, with the foreign buyer tax in place. So a bit of a weak comparison.
Yeah, so I think that's the problem. I mean, obviously the headlines we're reading, I think about sales increased 25% on a year-over-year basis. If you actually look at September 2016, again, obviously a month after the foreign buyers tax, sales basically plunged by about 50% in some of the areas. So I think when we're comparing on a year-over-year basis, it's hard to really quantify that. I look at the Vancouver detached market, which again is Vancouver specifically has seen sales on a year-over-year basis increase by, I believe, 30 or 31%. But you've actually had Vancouver detached sales are still trending about 32% below the 10-year average for the month of September. So it sort of puts things into context. I think there's still some slack in the detached market for sure.
Now, there was a lot of debate when the foreign buyer tax kicked in last year as to whether the Vancouver market was starting to fall in on itself under its own steam, under its own weight, or whether it was the tax that did it. Now that we have, 13, 14 months worth of data under our belt, what's your feeling? Was the market bound to cool off anyway, or was it really the tax that pushed it over the edge?
I mean, I think the market was definitely cooling before the tax. Now, I don't want to go ahead and say the tax had zero effect or impact. I think that it did, curb some of the price acceleration. Obviously, we had 40% price growth year over year for a couple of years in that detached segment. So definitely sort of cooled that. It sort of stemmed off some of the speculative side. But in terms of like actually, having, I guess, maybe the impact that some people might have hoped that it had, it hasn't had that. I think that obviously, there's still a lot of factors at play in the market that are pushing prices, still higher, particularly in the condo market.
Now, Steve, I only have about 30 seconds left with you, but if you had to make a prediction, look in the crystal ball, what's the Vancouver market look like through the winter?
I think that the detached, you'll continue to see a bit of a cool down. Obviously, the slower winter months, so I don't expect any sort of turnaround there. I think you're going to have further downwards pressure on prices. I think for the condo market, because inventory remains so low, because we had this excessive demand, I do think that the condo market looks like it might still inch upwards over the next couple months. I don't know, obviously, the longer-term trend.
Okay, Steve, it's always a pleasure having you on to get your insight. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
That was Steve Saretsky, founder of the VancityCondoGuide.com.